During April of 2024, my DAR chapter held a chapel tour. After visiting the Trevaux United Methodist Church and Strawberry Chapel, we headed to Eccles Methodist Church for lunch. According to the website advocatesouthcarolina.org, in 2022, Jessica Brody writes, "The first time Nancy Platt laid eyes on Eccles United Methodist Church, it was love at first sight." Platt and her husband moved a few years ago to the rural community surrounding Eccles, northwest of Mount Pleasant, and they were immediately taken with the historic structure. "It's the cutest thing. It just sings to you," Platt said, describing the exterior, which she says is essentially one great piece of longleaf pine. The Platts soon joined the church and began worshiping each week with the tiny congregation, which comprised of about 15 to 18 people, most of them in their 70s. An elementary school teacher, Platt was intrigued by the history, and soon she started to learn more and more about the quaint church. Founded in 1881 and situated in the Francis Marion National Forest, it is located at the end of Eccles Church Road, which turns into a clay road that eventually takes you back into the forest. "It would be a lovely wedding venue," Platt said. "It's so charming and such a sweet little building." Fellow church members would regale her with stories of their own history growing up, doing Sunday school under the trees by the church, or their annual mother-daughter homecoming, when families would gather from far off, camping out at the church for a huge weekend banquet. But there's one problem. While beautiful, the old church is now dilapidated and in need of some serious TLC, Platt said. "I asked, 'What are you guys doing with this beautiful building?' And they said, 'We're stuck.' They didn't have the needed funds or expertise to undertake the needed repairs." That's when Platt stepped up. As a teacher, she was well accustomed to grant writing and offered to look into securing a grant to fund a renovation or restoration project. She approached Christina Ray Butler, professor of Historic Preservation, American College of Building Arts in Charleston, who had a quick interest in the project. In the spring, Butler took her sophomore group to the Eccles site and put them to work. At the end of their time at Eccles, they provided a detailed report of what they felt would be needed to get the church back to where it used to be. The students spent much time during that spring semester working at the church, ultimately producing a master plan document in June, complete with historical research. By digging through historical records and working with the structure itself, the students soon discovered that the church had been constructed in 1881 or 1882 and then moved to its present site in the 1920s. Later, a modern church was built on the site behind the old church in the 1960s, and that is where people worship today. Student Andrew Panskratz heavily researched the beginning of the church, which he reported was part of the Irishtown plantation, whose 6,488 acres was the primary residence of the Revolutionary War hero Major Isaac Harleton, who worked with Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox. He also noted that Benjamin Gregg donated the land for the original meeting house on August the 1st of 1881, and that the church was officially started in 1882, probably out of a church plant that grew out of a nearby church. The circuit rider preacher at the time was reported as Daniel Archibald Patrick, who would have been between 26 and 30 years old at the time that he pastored at Eccles. This area was thought to be a center for bootlegging in the 1920s, and since the construction of the new church was in the 1960s, the historic building wasn't regularly used. At the conclusion of their report, the students noted that Eccles is an important vernacular rural church built with many original character-defining features and with a high level of integrity, having had few modernizations and alterations during its life, because it is so intact and based on the intended use and goals for the building as expressed by the congregation. They recommended not over-restoring the building or modernizing it heavily with new electricity or climate control. Instead, they suggested that the building be repaired as needed and preserved overall. This is also a much cheaper option. Now armed with a master plan, the congregation at Eccles Church is doing what they can to secure funds. This includes private opportunities via a GoFundMe page, as well as getting a grant from the South Carolina Conference. Notably, during the publication of this article, the church had received a $10,000 donation from the MacArthur Lodge for 27.
Right up. The road just came right up by the church. There's a big clearing right here. But if you once you go past Eccles, the Forest Road Conifer starts, and Conifer goes back here as well. And so you're into the heart of the forest. Conifer goes down to Farewell Corner, which is supposed to be where Francis Marion said goodbye to his troops.
Said farewell.
Oh, yeah.
Farewell Corner. Cool.
So so I keep thinking this is just right for a good fall festival when it's spooky and get something like a hayride up through there and spook some people. But this is the old church. The original church is circa 1882, and the thing that struck me that I just fell in love with was that it's made of all longleaf pine. So it's just a product of the environment, very natural. We'll walk in just a minute. You guys can please excuse the sale stuff that's still on the floor. We're trying to get all that picked up from our big sale last week. But you'll see the beauty of the longleaf pine on the interior. It's just, it's breathtaking. What we eventually like to do, so the American College of Building Arts came out and gave us an estimate, or not an estimate, they told us what we needed to do to get it back up to snuff, which is a lot. The estimate from artists, we went to several different preservation groups, and artists' estimate was the lowest at $75,000. The American College of Building Arts is doing our windows. They've already done 4. They're working on another 4, and then we'll have, that should do it. That's the last of it. And then they'll once we get the 3 main issues, which is one, the roof, as you can see. Another is this corner. There's a timber framing issue where they're going to need to rebrace it and fasten that. And then also, as you can see, the pillars down below the masonry. There are a couple on the exact opposite side. There's a corner that's really not. It needs some serious TLC. So those are our 3 big structural things that are right around $35,000, which is what we just raised last weekend, and with y'all's help today, it just put us over $35,000. So the new roof is coming in the next week or 2, and then the windows can't go in until the timber framing and the masonry is addressed, and then from there we'll move on to completely lime washing it again. You can see where the coat of that white lime wash has just faded off with our intense heat. It just needs to be reapplied, and clearly we're going to need to do some structural sanding, But a lot of what's left, we feel like we can do in-house. We've got a lot of younger folks that are in construction, and a lot of people that are willing to come out and just elbow grease. The doors, according to the American, is $10,000 altogether to get them back to preservation standard. If we can bring the church up to preservation standard, it was actually surveyed in 1987 as an historic property that can be put on the National Register. So our goal is to do preservation standards, but that's going to mean baby steps because that's a lot of money. And then we would like to go ahead and be added to the National Register, and then we'll be put on the National Parks and Recreation, all of that connected, and hopefully, get on some of the tours that people are doing now with some of the other places that are already on the register. There, as you can see, there is electricity, a very simple circuit that you'll see a couple of hanging lights. There's a bird's nest in one. Clearly not working. We voted, the members of the congregation, no one wants to bring it, no one wants to modernize it. We just want to get it up to where it was. What we would like to do is possibly put a solar panel over to the side and run something simple to create electricity so that we could do ceiling fans, because that would be nice in the heat of the summer to open the windows up, because back in its day, kids had Sunday school in it when it was still functional, and they had a huge Mother's Day weekend festivity where the original pews were turned into tables, and they would line the tables up, open the church, everyone would have a huge meal, everyone would come from all over the state, camp out, and they'd just spend the weekend, and it was the Eccles reunion for Mother's Day. So that's kind of in the dreams of a lot of folks. But everyone is pretty much, I think what we might need to do just for handicap accessibility, we definitely need one of the entrances to have some handrails. I think that's just good practice. And a few other slight upgrades just to make sure that it's safe and sound.
Was it always on the Mason Village?
No. So way back when, it was actually built in Boggy Head, which is not way, but it's it's a good bit further into the forest. And the College of Building Arts said that they probably rolled it at some point. It was rolled and then rolled over here, and then they put it up because clearly we flood.
The Reverend James Lewis Sr. said he loves being Eccles pastor during this important time. I just can't wait till we have a ribbon cutting for the church, Lewis said. I can see how the congregation is so happy about this. He also stated that one of the biggest things that he has enjoyed about learning the history of the church is the stories of the families and the functions that were held here. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it may have encouraged you to help and donate money to the Eccles Church preservation. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like it, and as always, thanks for watching.